On June 14th, 2025, a nationwide protest dubbed No Kings, a Day of Defiance, erupted across all 50 states. Over 2,000 events in total. Organizers claimed it was a stand against the authoritarian overreach of President Trump. Timed deliberately to counter his birthday, the ICE raids, and the highly publicized military parade. Now, while many of these gatherings were peaceful, we all know that you had a few cities break out into violence. Portland turned chaotic. Los Angeles, of course, we know that's a shit show. Minnesota, the very sad assassination of the two politicians. I think there were two others.
And their spouses.
Right, but they didn't die, the other two, did they?
No, they didn't.
Right,
They did.
okay.
Both of their spouses died.
What?
Yeah, the two people who were shot died.
Oh, no, so there were two others that were injured.
Yeah,
and he did have the suspect had a No Kings flyer in his car, which is what connects them to this, quote, movement. There were also issues in Salt Lake. There was a shooter that opened fire on the crowd. Just to make sure everyone gets this, it had nothing to do with ICE, police, military. It was a random psychopath in the group. Okay. So now we told you last week that this was very organized and very well funded by very nefarious sources. And I think it's crucial that we look at what's really going on here because it is tearing apart the fabric of our society. Cuomo did a great piece on this. Let's take a look.
These protests are fed by dark sources with a desire for our destruction. One of the main players in organizing and funding the Los Angeles protests is a group called CHIRLA, CHIRLA, acronym, Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights. They have received millions in government grants and state grants, but now reports are showing that there may be a foreign link, specifically from China, funding and organizing these protests. The pro-Chinese far-left Party for Socialism and Liberation. They're known as the PSL. They are working with CHIRLA, helping fund the protests in Los Angeles and maybe elsewhere. Remember, all the parties in China are controlled by the CCP. So this is China. And the party is pushing to destroy capitalism and the West. This is its agenda. This is what China wants. They even have a term for the effort. It's called the smokeless war, where they have this theory of how they'll destroy the West without actually taking to the battlefield. That's what they did during the anti-Israel campus protests. The PSL worked hand in glove with anti-Zionist student groups and helped organize and fund the Columbia campus encampments. Now it gets scarier. Where does the PSL get its money? Enter Shanghai-based socialist billionaire Neville Singham. 2017, he sold his tech company for about $1 billion. Reports show the same year he started funding far-left groups like the PSL to the tune of millions. Singham is not America's friend. He has deep business ties to the CCP, but also has strong ideological ties to communism, period. People who worked for him says he's an admirer of Mao, Che Guevara, Hugo Chavez, not friends of American culture. According to the New York Times, Singham has funded and developed a deep global empire of pro-China nonprofits in the media and grassroots political space, steering millions into these groups over the years, including the PSL. And guess who was associated with the PSL and other Singham-funded groups? Elias Rodriguez. Ring a bell? This scumbag, the 30-year-old Chicago man who murdered 2 Israeli staffers in cold blood last month to make a political point.
Okay, so the bottom line is that real grass movements don't launch with merch stores and cohesive branding and synchronized media rollouts, okay? Yet No Kings had all of that on day one. The coordinated aesthetic, this is not an accident, guys. This is psychological priming. And when people see a fully packaged movement, it's giving the illusion of mass consensus. I mean, I've seen it. Everyone's like, millions of us showed up. Millions showed up.
It's called Astroturf.
It's bingo. And even the slogans and the hashtags, they're not spontaneous. So the messaging is A/B tested by professional firms like Berlin Rosen, M&R, and Purpose. All these guys are embedded in the funding network of these dark money organizations. These firms test everything, from the phrasing they use to the color of their friggin' No Kings flyer. It is bonker shorts. This is not a crowd, it is a machine. And they don't stop there. I want you to take a look. They literally pay people to go out and riot. Now, can you show me that paid rioters clip at 1:40. And then I'm passing it to Amy because she's done some serious research on this.
I'm right now I am representing myself, and I'm representing the folks at Rise and Resist who have been trained
so Rise
to
and
be
Resist.
marshals.
How much do they pay you to wear this vest?
Absolutely nothing.
Really?
So I did some digging, and the woman trying to stop my interview is named Karen Shaw. She is a professional protester. I found her at almost 100 different protests. Let's look at her portfolio, shall we? Here's her outside Trump Tower saying TikTok time's up. Here's her saying ban guns, not drag. Amazing. This is her telling us that lies have consequences. She is also very passionate about abortion. Even in the video right now, she's just wearing a hat that says abortion on it. This is deranged behavior, by the way. I studied psychology in college, and I'm confident that I can diagnose this person as insane. Sometimes she gets less creative, though, and just holds a sign that says enough. Now, here I found her working with a different professional protester that I'd exposed.
Super low
this
effort.
is Stuart Waldman. He was there when they raised the Palestinian flag over City Hall in Rhode Island.
Everyone knows you.
Everyone knows me?
You are. They know what you do.
I know what you do as well, Stuart Waldman. You are on the board of riseandresist.org, the company that is paying people like Karen for a second job as a professional protester. And the donation link to give you money is just Act Blue, which is the fundraising platform for the Democrat Party. That's who you are, Stuart Waldman.
Okay, kill it.
Now,
pass.
I mean, so we actually saw a very similar thing during the LA riots as well, where there were actually Craigslist ads that were put out that have since been removed. Nat, I did send that to you on Slack. I'm not sure if you want to pull it up. But they were really getting people fired up for the continuation that was the No Kings protest. And it's so ironic to me because only in a free country do you have the ability to go and scream about kings apparently ruling. You try going to a country with a king and just see how far that takes you. So it's so ridiculous.
Did you see what happened in Canada? They have a king, so they changed it to no tyrant.
Oh, yeah, that is so cringe.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, there's a number of really kind of just super, super bad groups funding this. We're going to start with the one that is kind of from the inception, which is 5150. And this is actually a movement that was started on Reddit shortly after Trump's re-election. And basically their main goals are they want to remove Trump, they want to reinstate DEI across basically every single aspect of government. They want to attack Elon Musk, and they want to mobilize anti-ICE protests across all 50 states. That's kind of what their name implies, 5150. 5051, sorry. Then, of course, you have CHIRLA. Chris Cuomo did a fantastic job at explaining the way this organization has taken money from the government, from taxpayers, and has used it to absolutely sow discord all throughout the community. One thing that he missed there that I find particularly interesting is that this organization actually donated nearly $500,000 to Gavin Newsom when they were questioning his governorship and they were trying to take it away from him. They invested nearly $500,000, and then after he won and was able to maintain that governorship, he then returned the favor and provided them all of this funding. Now, this group is responsible for putting out something called a migrant alert, which is basically triangulating the position of ICE officers to give people forewarning, also to be able to tell them to go in and to, sow chaos wherever they need to go and do that. And so CHIRLA is also responsible for that. And then, of course, you do have the PSL as well. Now, the way that you can look at it is there's a marriage between these two things. One of them is all of the infrastructure, right? So like the CHIRLA alerts, for example. But when it comes to PSL, that's when you're talking about your manpower, the bodies. They're trying to recruit people, recruit bodies to bring them to places to, like you said, create this consensus that this is the populist opinion. So that's how the two of these groups are, coincided, and they're working together. And both of them, of course, receive a lot of money. They receive money for everything from Soros adjacent funds. And of course, it can be difficult to track these things because they create shell companies and create like a layer of separation between them and the company that they're actually investing into, so that way their name can stay out of it. But we did definitely see some Soros influence here. They bankrolled all of the legal teams, his open society foundations, bail funds, and activist training groups that work alongside them. So the way to see this is that CHIRLA and PSL, they're two heads of one beast, And then Soros, the CCP, and other dark money funding are the ones who are funneling all the resources in to get them to carry out their dark, sick agenda. Absolutely. But my only question is why? Like, what are they looking to achieve with this? And for me, I do have a couple of theories. Float them really quick. Let me know what you guys think. The first one, Palantir, again, not to be a super conspiracy theorist, but we are seeing a bunch of right-wing populist influencers saying, send in Palantir right now to deal with all of the protests, to deal with the illegals, trying to change public sentiment. If things get bad enough, it's like problem, reaction, solution. That's the philosophy.
That's not a bad point, actually. I hadn't thought about it in that framing. But
100%. You're seeing so many people who are usually anti-surveillance. Yes, Laura Loomer, let's call her out specifically, who is calling for Palantir to be implemented. The other thing I thought, because a lot of these donors are private, hey, could it be somebody in the hospitality industry, in these industries where they're being impacted by illegals being stripped much money that affects their bottom line. And now we have just seen Trump come out and say he is only targeting criminals, not people working in those industries. So my brain straight away goes, were some of them funding it? Is that the intention?
Okay, can I just a little more info, though, real quick. Newsom, it's actually worse than that. Newsom started giving CHIRLA money in 2018.
Yes, okay. Can I please jump in on that?
Go.
Okay, just two things.
We hate him. We know everything.
Okay, okay, I'll just address CHIRLA first, and then I want to address some of the other funders behind No Kings. And by the way, I just want to acknowledge, there are plenty of people who took part in those demonstrations peacefully, and they did it because they genuinely believe in what they're protesting, okay? I don't want to smear them as, like, paid agents, because a lot of people were not. However, you know, CHIRLA, the issue that I can at least understand and agree with when it comes to the right is that they received about $33 billion in public money, meaning taxpayer money. Did I say billion? Sorry. 33 million, apologies.
Yes.
And that money was specifically allocated to the organization to provide legal help and services to people who are undocumented. Now, look, I am in favor of helping people defend themselves legally, but I do agree that it's unfair for taxpayers to fund that effort, because not all taxpayers agree with that mission. And so taking public money and funneling it to activist groups or organizations like that, I think is unfair, because I would be furious if, let's say, my taxpayer money is going to some, I don't know, far-right activist group that's calling for some other policy that I don't favor. I think that's unfair.
Right.
Now, just real quick, Christy Walton. Do you guys know who that is?
Oh, yeah.
She's an heiress of the Walmart fortune. She was a long-time Republican donor until Trump came along. Now, what did she fund prior to Trump? Union-busting efforts, any politician who was against labor, she funneled money to them. Now, Christy Walton makes a lot of money based on the fact that she owns, I believe, about 2% of Walmart, something around there. Walmart is profitable because they import most of the products that they sell. When you have someone like Donald Trump call for tariffs, that's going to cut into Walmart's profitability. She also, I mean, she just...
You're spot on. And he called out Walmart, remember, for passing the price on to the consumer.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, look, I'm not saying that all of those demonstrators are fake and they were all AstroTurf. No. What I am saying, though, is that some of the financial backers here do not give a damn about the American people. They're trying to protect their own profitability, including the ability to keep undocumented immigrants undocumented so they can pay them less than minimum wage and exploit that labor. That is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can we also talk about one other ironic thing, just one more quick point I want to make. Some of their main funding came from the DHS.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that so ironic?
And
then where they got their main funding, they are now literally rebelling against that.
Can I ask Anna one question, though, real quick? And I promise you're next. I swear to God, I'm sorry. But just because we're here, is it legal?
Yes.
Oh, but how is it legal?
Okay.
Newsom gives them millions of dollars in California tax money and then takes a donation from them.
That's why.
How is that legal?
We need better laws. First of all, we need to get rid of dark money. So we're able to track things.
There is a group involved in this, by the way, the Arabella Advisors. So having said that, okay, the No Kings website is registered to a digital development firm previously contracted by Arabella Advisors non-profit partners. These are the same scumbags that started that fake letter about RFK that I ended up having to debunk that 17,000 doctors had signed. It's a fake letter. Anybody can sign it. It's total baloney. There's nobody behind it. And Astroturf did everywhere to create the same consensus that doctors across the country by the thousands were concerned. None of it was real.
Yeah, the Astroturf issue is a problem. Literally, guys, if you want. Don't do it right now because you should watch the show. We're live. But when you have a chance, there's literally a website. It's a business. It's called Crowds on Demand, where you can literally hire paid protesters. So like the Craigslist thing that you brought up is true, but you don't even have to look at Craigslist. There's literally businesses. You can go to their websites and they offer bodies. There you go. Crowds on Demand is your home for impactful advocacy campaigns, demonstrations, PR stunts, crowds for hire, and corporate events.
How easy to create public
sentiment. And you know what?
Wait,
this is not my original point, but to respond to you. Democrats didn't even come up with this idea themselves. They learned it from the Koch brothers. This is what they do.
Yes, that's what the Koch brothers did with the Tea Party.
They created the original template, and Dems were like, oh, this works so well for them. And so Americans for Prosperity, they've been doing this for decades.
Both parties do it. It needs to be rooted out.
Exactly.
We should have organic demonstrations and movements. We should not be funneling taxpayer money to activist groups. I'm sorry, it's unfair to the taxpayer.
I agree, but until Citizens United goes away, which it won't, nothing's going to happen, unfortunately.
What was your original point?
Thank you. I have an original point to make. And I know you love for me to contain my points, but this is actually deeply relevant.
Okay. And how far off piste are you going?
No, it's just the census thing. I do want to
talk about. But I have you're doing that.
Right.
I mean, you're jumping.
It ties in right
All
now.
right, do it.
Right.
Go.
Thank you.
I was going to set you up for that whole thing, but if it's now, take it.
Thank you. So we talked about a lot of the funders. One person that we failed to mention is the Biden administration. Biden funded CHIRLA. And then we have to ask ourselves, why are Democrats so eager to fund these LA riots, to fund these No Kings protests? I still, having been on the inside and having known these people, I suspect, actually, I know that they are trying to do everything they can to pave the way for the 2030 census, to make sure that states like California and New York that would otherwise lose representation can continue to juice up the numbers to ensure that they have as much electoral power as possible. Because after all, guys, the 435 House of Representatives, it is a zero-sum game. The number is not going to increase. It's the same pie. We just divvy it up a different way. So right now, states are basically in a battle to see who can get the most representation. And if it's based on breaking the law, I consider it deeply illegitimate. If you base your representation on illegal aliens, I don't think that's legitimate.
So can I comment on that? Because this has actually been challenged in the courts. In fact, the Trump administration, under his first term, challenged the census in counting undocumented immigrants in their official census count. But they lost in court. And the reason why they lost in court is because the 14th Amendment specifically indicates that every human body on U.S. soil needs to be counted by the census.
Right, I understand that, but I think the originalists, I don't think the founding fathers ever envisioned that people will be using illegal aliens to juice up the numbers. And Trump, in response to that, I know what you're talking about. In response to that case, he issued something called the 2020 order, which prevented illegal aliens from being counted, but Biden overturned that. So the executive order actually did stand.
Hang on, one thing I need you to explain to people who can get confused about this, because I saw a lot of questions after you brought this up the first time. Well, there are illegals in red states, so this refutes your argument. Can you explain how redistricting and gerrymandering and how it can flip a red state blue?
Exactly. So right now, the illegals are actually being shipped into blue areas of these red states. So it actually doesn't impact the representation all that much because they were blue anyway. So, so gerrymandering is the practice of drawing districts to favor one party or another. And actually, Republicans are great at this. I have to give them, they are fantastic at this. So this is primarily a blue state issue because when illegals go to, and I'm sorry if that offends that term, they are illegal. So when illegals are
so offended right now.
Adam, we got to go to Adam next.
When illegals are shipped to blue states, they go to when illegals are shipped to red states, they are primarily congregating in blue areas, so the status quo remains.
Right.
And so I actually sent a clip. Nat, I don't know if you got it. I have a clip of someone, a senior Democratic lawmaker, admitting to using illegal aliens to skew the censor numbers. It's the text I sent this morning to both you and Jill. Do you have that? Wow. She says it looked like she was like, I'm not sure if she was under oath, but she was certainly a witness testifying to this.
Adam, while we wait for that, go ahead and weigh in here.
So what's the question?
Because we've come a long way since what this thing is. No Kings protest?
My theory is that they are using illegal aliens to juice up the censorship numbers, which is why they are fighting so hard for these riots, these No Kings, the LA riots, which, I mean, the underlying galvanizing force is that they want to make illegal aliens not illegal.
Yeah, I think, look, for me, it's actually pretty simple. There's one flag that I think should be flying all across America, and that's the flag that I have right here, okay? What happens is this coalition of all these other flags, which is BLM, the feminists, the abortion, the anti-ICE, the gay flags, the Gays for Gaza flags, the Free Palestine, globalize the Intifada, defund the police. They're all their flags put together, and they put their priorities above that of the United States. So for me, it's pretty simple. Fly all your gay, queer, weird flags. You can do that in America. You can't do that anywhere else that you're protesting against. Only in America can you fly those flags. Good luck flying that in all these other countries. America is still the greatest place in the world. We have the greatest flag in the world. We have the greatest national anthem in the world. And only in America can you come out and burn the flag, say you hate America, and then go back home on your iPhone and tweet about it.
Okay.
So this is the problem that I have with all these weirdos
If you hate
out
us,
there
go home.
talking about
Why
no
are you
Kings.
even here?
Here's the last point.
I lost
Here's the last
the thread.
point, Anna.
What's the issue
Here's the
here?
last point.
Here's what
a lot of these
I'll tell you in a
people
second.
are not playing the game. The people playing the game are in Congress. They're the president. They're in power. All these people are booing from the sideline losers that have no power whatsoever.
But the point is it's funded. It's not just organic. It's not these people just doing it. It's funded. A lot of it is CCP. And I'm personally of the belief that we're already in a Cold War with China, man. You don't need to shoot a single bomb to be able to cause chaos and destruction in a place. China's doing it in many ways.
Yeah, but
They're
give
doing it
credit
through
to where credit's
psychological warfare.
due.
They're
It's
doing
not
it through
just
dark
China.
money.
Yes, it's
They're
China.
doing it with bioweapons.
Yes,
They're
it's
doing
Iran.
it with many
Yes,
different
it's Russia.
things.
And
they're trying to globalize this Intifada, globalize China. They're trying to basically make it normal in America to root for jihadists, terrorists, China, gay, LGBT. The Gays for Gaza, I mean, God forsake.
I see the
Are you
videos
kidding
of
me?
the protests being pulled out.
None of this makes
Egypt.
any sense.
But
and
how
there's
is that
just
related to-
Marxism
Hold on.
masquerading
Here's how.
as globalism, masquerading as jihadism.
To bring it back to the beginning, if
Yes,
you go
please.
back to Cuomo's clip, he points out that these same groups are behind all of these different exceptionally divisive movements.
Move from one to the
so
other.
as we look at each other and we're tearing each other to shreds as though it's red and blue or white and black or gay and straight or Israel and Palestine, this is all being orchestrated. And we are engaging in a civil war.
Yeah, look, it doesn't surprise me.
That is what you need to take away.
Yeah, look, it doesn't surprise me at all that foreign interests are going to exploit whatever unrest exists here in the U.S. That is not surprising to me at all. But I do want to just quickly go back to the issue that Lindy brought up, and I want to stay on that topic because we're kind of all over the place. So, Lindy, you mentioned the gerrymandering. That is a huge problem. So I agree with you on that. But I want to understand the connection to undocumented immigrants, because I could see that as being a problem if the representation of undocumented immigrants in our census is somehow rigging elections, but it's not.
But it is, though.
How?
If it gives an extra electoral college point, then how does that not rig
No,
it?
I'm talking about the 435, the way that
Both
they're divvied
of
up.
those are-
right,
that's
that's
the
primarily
theory.
the issue. I looked at the numbers today, and I'm happy to dig in my phone, but California would have lost seats in the 2020 census were it not for illegal aliens.
Understood.
Even if it were 1 to 2 seats, I think that's 1 to 2 seats too many.
So it's electoral, it's controlling Congress.
Yeah.
And it's subsequently
matters so
controlling votes
Exactly.
in the electoral
There
college.
was an analysis in 2020 that backs up what you're saying.
Right.
But you're not saying that like undocumented immigrants are like voting in elections.
No, I'm not saying that
that's
at all.
not the case.
There's something I also haven't said. It's the federal funding and allocation of resources.
That's true.
And the more populous a state is, the more money they get.
Right.
So there's so much behind this. This is why there are deeply deep-pocketed, deep vested interests trying to fund these riots to make it seem like popular consensus is behind them when
You're
it's
saying
not.
what I always say, follow the money.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.